This show is sponsored by the official Recall Committee California Patriot Coalition. Recall Governor Newsom 2020, number 1424018. Committee major funding from others include Rescue California, Recall Governor Newsom. Call 39 LLC, DGB Ranch. Five-star spot for a smorgasbord of information from RecallGavin2020.com. In a tasty, non-caloric, gluten-free bite. It's Friday night at the French Laundry with Executive Chef Oren Heatley and Maitre d' Mike Netter.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Friday Nights at the French Laundry, our virtual restaurant. The cuisine's always about California politics, and the main entree being the recall of Gavin Newsom. I got to tell you, it's the 4th of July weekend coming up. I'm pumped. I'm ready. I know the team is. I've got Eric Early, the sous chef, with me tonight, and that's going to take on a special meaning with our show tonight. And I'm, of course, accompanied by Oren Heatley, the chef who cooked the entire thing up. And for everybody out there, we want to start with an announcement that you may already know, but for everybody out there, in the words of Beetlejuice, it's showtime. All right, it has been announced. The election is a coming. So the once great state of California is again going to be the once great state, September 14th. Mark your calendars, put it down, make sure you vote and vote yes, because it's a coming. And there's so much to pack into this show. I hope we could do it in just 2 hours. But before I forget, remember, we're sponsored by RecallGavin2020.com, our political PAC. We need your donations. There's a little over 60 days to go, and we need to keep this drive going. And we want to hear from you tonight at 1-800-222-5222. That's 1-800-222-5222. And here's my question for you. What bothers you most about the current state of California? Let us know, because we want to get those issues out there over the airways and through our various medium for the next 70 days. Because remember, this election is about the people. Oren, how are you doing tonight?
I am phenomenal. Thank you very much. I've been on the phone all day with the media talking about different things, different aspects about the recall, what's happening, what's going on, the September deadline that we have, and the early vote. It's very apparent that this legislature, the super majority legislature, the protectionists they are, conspired to the benefit of this governor to modify the date. But when the media asked me about the date and the fact that it might benefit the governor, I told them I think it is grossly miscalculated on their part. I think that earlier the better, and let's get this done. We are so ready to remove him from office, replace him, and begin to rebuild California.
Yeah, it's amazing how the people have no legal standing, and we'll get to more amazing news that happened Monday night in addition to signing of SB 152. But Eric, doesn't it strike you as strange that virtually nobody in our California government stands up? Kevin Kiley, I got to hand it to him, did stand up on the legislative floor and speak up about, quote, changing the rules in the middle of the game.
Yeah.
But you think someone would challenge Gavin in the legislature, don't you?
Well, other than the small number of Republicans up there, I call it the Politburo. There's a reason I call it the Politburo, because it's almost wall-to-wall Democrats in the state assembly and state senate. That gives them a supermajority. We've got the same one-party rule in this state that they have in downtown communist China. And when you have a communist form of one-party rule, they will let the empty suit Newsom get away with anything they want him to get away with. And what happened here was there was a whole budget exercise that normally the legislature has to go through in approving the budget and the numbers and such before a special election can be scheduled. And they, by some sort of executive fiat last week, The Politburo did away with that entire process, and it sped up the effort to get the recall schedule, which they've done. And they have done the calculations, and they believe that the sooner the special election happens, the better. But I'll agree with Orrin on that. I think they're going to be sorely misled on this one. People want to get up there and get this guy Newsom out, but it is amazing that you have this one-party rule, could care less about the people, and they're all sitting there calculating. They're looking at poll numbers and everything else, and they're getting a ton of pressure from the empty suit to get this thing scheduled as soon as possible.
It's almost surreal what's happening in this whole political election. And we're going to get to some breaking news later in the show, so please stay tuned about the other news that happened Monday night. We're going to give you a little bit of suspense. But it really is almost surreal how Gavin's camp, as I like to call it, because I can't really think of a good word for them, or you came up with a great one last night, or last week. It's just so afraid that either something's going to be revealed, like what happened with not so clearing a brush a few weeks ago that got revealed, or he's going to do something stupid. It's amazing how inept this governor is. Orrin?
Like, you're exactly right. They're doing everything in their power to hold on to the control the supermajority has, the death grip they have on our state. And, this governor just doesn't get it, folks. He just doesn't get it. He thought he was on the fast track to the White House, and this is the obstacle in his way. And, everything that they've done to try and stop or hinder or obstruct this recall has backfired on them. Everything from mischaracterizing the leaders behind the recall as racist and extremist and Trump Republicans, which they're absolutely not. And, that down to trying to demonize the people that are doing it, but not addressing the problems behind the recall and what led to the recall in the first place. This is a movement of the people. And folks, when I say it's a movement of the people, 33% of the people that signed the recall are not Republican. And we have evidence from the Los Angeles registrar's office that showed, if I read the numbers correctly, and I think I am, that 57% of the people who signed the recall in Los Angeles County were registered Democrats, which doesn't surprise me, because the bulk of the people registered to vote in Los Angeles are registered Democrats. That just shows unilateral support for what we're doing. People's eyes are opening up, and they're seeing, the king has no clothes, and, they're speaking up about it now.
That 33% of almost, or a little more than 2 million signatures, that's over 600,000 signatures that were not Republican signatures. That is remarkable. And just, to this whole topic, the fact that the subject of the recall himself, this tin pot dictator up there, is the one up there, moving the strings, trying to monkey around when it should be scheduled that is best for him, just shows you the lengths that these power-hungry, power-grabbing crazies up there in Sacramento will go. And this is going to be the end of that empire in California.
Yes, Eric.
Go ahead, Arlen.
You and I rarely disagree on anything, but I take exception to something you just said. And I don't think that for 1 minute Gavin Newsom is the one pulling any strings. I think that all the strings are attached to him, and and the unions have full control over what's going on. And I think that it's the unions that are behind the opposition for this recall.
Well, I don't discount that at all, that possibility. Well, certainly that's happening. So I agree with you on that. But I think you've got this, you've got the pampered child up there running around in his office throwing tantrums on a daily basis. And
political puppet.
And you know what? We're at 7:45. Let's save a little thunder out there. Remember, it's 1-800-222-5222. we're going to talk about one of the biggest temper tantrums of all that Gavin must have thrown Monday night and what we're doing about it. But we're going to hold our fire, as you say, Oren, just a little bit. I want to remind everybody out there, if you would like to see how dapper Oren looks tonight in his gray shirt and wonderful tie, we do stream live on Facebook, YouTube, throughout various mediums, and you can actually see me yapping on the radio, which is kind of an oxymoron. So remember, our restaurant goes across a number of cuisines. Listen, everybody. It's the 4th of July. And, you know, we always try to think of a theme for the show. But if you want to celebrate something, Gavin gave us something to celebrate by giving us an election date and putting it before the people of California. It is probably, for myself, it's the journey of a lifetime. And for everybody out there, it's incredibly exciting. We're going to get to some election statistics that show this is going to happen. We're going to get to some more breaking news later. But I want to take a moment in the next segment with our next guest, Paulette, coming on, to celebrate something that's the reason we can do this radio show. No, sorry, KABC, it's not you. It's something called the First Amendment. And we're going to be talking a little bit in the show about the First Amendment, because this is something where we have the right, regardless of social media, to speak our mind. So, everybody out there, remember, it's Friday nights at the French Laundry, KABC 790, streaming everywhere, live on Facebook. Recall Gavin. 2020.com, coming soon to you, September 14th.
Very exciting news out of Sacramento, the election being called for September 14th. We are all looking forward to it.
Oh, yeah.
The sooner, the better. Like I said on that segment, I think that the sooner date, the earlier date, it benefits the recall for a lot of good reasons. This governor has upset a lot of people. He's angered a lot of parents. He's destroyed a lot of lives, the businesses that are going out of business, and people that have been out of work that have no place to go back to work. And, his running around and pledging to relieve everybody of their back rent or their traffic tickets, or, to give a $600 check for a stimulus recall rebate, just doesn't, you can't buy your way out of the hole that he's dug himself into. And we've seen that with who was the billionaire presidential candidate this last time around. He put billions of dollars into his campaign to try and buy votes, try and buy delegates to get the Republican nomination or Democrat nomination. Couldn't do it.
Right.
So it was the Democrat.
Mike Bloomberg.
He was trying to buy his way into. So what I'm saying is that even
Mike
though we
Bloomberg is the
are on a
guy's name.
shoestring budget, the money isn't going to get him elected or unelected. It's the power of the people that is behind what we're doing. And that's why this is so important and it's so powerful, because we are returning California back to its roots, back to the foundation this nation was built on. And that's a government that's representative of the people they serve. And this government, this legislation, the legislators, this governor have lost sight of who they work with and who they work for.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to our restaurant. It's all about California politics. Look, it's 4th of July coming up, and before I forget, happy birthday, America. And one of the things that makes America special is the fact that we have the First Amendment, that we have the right to express ourselves, that we have the right to say what's on our minds, and we have the ability to agree to disagree. And we have the right to go to church. We have the right to go to work. We have the right to earn a living. Many of these things, Gavin Newsom in the last year has tried to take away these basic rights. And Gore and I had some delightful meetings this week with Paulette. And Paulette, I don't want to butcher your last name, so I'll let you say it. Welcome to Friday Nights at the French Laundry. Have a seat at our virtual restaurant.
Yeah, Mike, this is Paulette.
I knew that. Hi, Paulette. You're on the air, by the way. So be nice, say
Yep.
nice things about us. To tell us a little bit about what you've been doing, introduce yourself to our studio audience that's out there, because I've been talking to you for, I think, my God, about 8-9 months, and you've been amazingly politically active. And again, not taking a seat on the sidelines, but talk to us about some of, who you are, your background, and literally the court case, which is why I have to sue Shep with me today, because he reads legal, to talk about the victory and what's on the horizon, if you will.
Sure. So just 1 minute of background on myself. I've spent my entire working life in Silicon Valley, retired from high tech, started as an engineer, moved on to business management as vice president at several Silicon Valley firms, and retired a few years ago and focused now more on giving back sorts of things. But I haven't been politically active except as a very active voter, very engaged, volunteered for a few candidates. But the last 15 months have been something else. Because what we saw shortly after the shelter-in-place orders, as they were called, I would call it suspending the Bill of Rights and every other right as well. What we saw is that what was going on was not actually, we were constantly being told about the science and the data, but if one was actually looking at the data and if one actually read the science, the authorities, whether it was at the state level or at the county level, were not actually following that, and we were all, everyone was having pretty much all their rights taken away. And what really motivated us was the total unfairness of what was being done. The best way I would put that is that we were all in the same storm. We kept seeing that, we kept hearing that, but we were definitely not all in the same boat. And, I could rattle off, would you like me to? Just a few of the things that really got us, my husband and myself, really motivated to try and do something ourselves.
I would like you to.
Okay. So, for instance, I'm sure all of you have seen the photos of the mile-long lines at food banks. We saw small businesses were forced to shut while Walmart could sell exactly the same things. We've seen that all the statistics tell us that Hispanic and Black and women-owned and, businesses with very low capital were the least able to survive, and they have gone down in enormous numbers. California, I think, is the worst state in that respect. We saw hundreds of thousands of service workers who lost their jobs, and with the backlog in the unemployment benefits, they couldn't even get their unemployment checks to tide them over in the most minimal way, while a lot of other people could work from home and were fully paid. We saw that private schools opened, but we saw the powerful teacher union interests kept the public schools closed. And that has been resulted, all the statistics tell us, tremendous learning loss for children. And of course, low income and the most vulnerable children have suffered the most. And then, of course, parents with their children at home, parents were forced to quit their jobs to stay home with their children. And single parent families, of course, were absolutely hammered by that. And then we saw special interests get special treatment, like Hollywood or, favored industries, while struggling small businesses, certainly in my county, and I don't think we were the only ones, were hit with these enormous fines. And of course, over all of that, we saw that the people making the decisions, the officials, whether they were the state level or the county level, had absolutely no skin in the game, right? They were fully paid. They were richly pensioned and still are, of course. They had gold-plated benefits. And meanwhile, they were imposing these enormous harms on a lot of the most vulnerable populations in California. So that's really what galvanized us to do something about it.
And I know I get a newsletter or email update from you all the time, but tell us about the legal decisions. I know Eric's been reading them before the show and during
It'll
the
be
day.
good if Paulette talked about what Paulette, what were the steps you took?
Yeah.
What did you do?
Right. So we in September, when we saw no end in sight, I mean, we all thought this would be over in a few months, in a couple of months, right? 30 days, couple of weeks, no. So it was going on and on with absolutely no end in sight. So finally, in October, we filed a federal lawsuit and we made 3 constitutional claims. And we did not file in California courts because everyone told us that the California courts were just not going to protect our rights, which is a very sad statement all by itself. So we filed in federal court. The lawsuit is Tandon versus Newsom, and we had 10 plaintiffs. And our focus was the loss of individual rights and the right to earn a living. So we had 3 constitutional claims. The first constitutional claim or set of claims was around the right to earn a living. And our plaintiffs, we had 6 small business plaintiffs. And the claims we made were 14th Amendment equal protection and 5th Amendment due process. Then we had a First Amendment free speech claim, political speech, because as you know, for 9 months, going right up to election day, political candidates who are not pretty much in California had no ability to campaign, especially if they were contenders. This was a huge problem. So one of our plaintiffs there was a U.S. congressional candidate who was running, in fact, in my congressional district against the incumbent. And then the second plaintiffs were a couple who hosted political discussions in their home. And normally under the law, the home is pretty sacrosanct. But as we all know, we were not allowed to meet in the homes with more than, I think, 4 other people. And then our third claim was a First Amendment free exercise claim, free exercise of religion, and that was around group Bible study in the home. We didn't have churches as plaintiffs because we knew there were a lot of church lawsuits going through the system. So we focused on a different setting, which is Bible studies in the home.
It's amazing, and one of the reasons we have you on tonight, I don't want people to forget that literally under Gavin, we were banned from meeting in our own homes, right? To talk politics or talk about religion or talk pretty much about anything.
Yeah.
And tell us, Eric, go on, because you asked a better line of question on this tonight.
Well, Paulette, this ended up in a pretty amazing victory, did it not?
Yes, it certainly did. So, we lost, we were on this emergency motions track. We lost the district court. We lost at the Ninth Circuit, but we took it to the Supreme Court.
And the Supreme Court picked it up, right?
Yeah.
Which is a rare thing for the U.S. Supreme Court to even pick up a case to rule on it. The Supreme Court picked it up, and what happened, Paulette?
Just literally hours after we completed the filings, literally hours, we got an emergency injunction for the Supreme Court. But it wasn't just, which is a huge thing, I know, and it was amazing that, when we saw it had come out. But the ruling, it was a multi-page ruling, laid out the principles for how states or anybody needs to look at restricting free exercise of religion rights. Right. And, SCOTUS blog called that, which is a very influential legal blog, called that the most important free exercise decision since 1990.
And Paulette, the ruling was talking about the right to gather in people's homes and worship, correct?
Yes, to worship, to study the Bible, to any religious gathering in the home.
And Newsom's rules had blocked all of that, and you got the Supreme Court to say, sorry, no. People are allowed to worship in their homes. That's an incredible ruling. Incredible.
That's right.
Eric, I'm a little confused here because, again, my only legal experience is episodes of Perry Mason. But when this went to the Supreme Court, hey, I'm old. This is black and white, by the way. But when it went before the Supreme Court, it's this Paulette's lawsuit, her lawyers versus who? I mean, who was standing up to defend this line?
You were suing the state of California, right, Paulette?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's right. Gavin Newsom and the health officers were the defendants.
Attorney General.
So the Attorney General of California, which at the time was Xavier Becerra, actually stood before the Supreme Court or a surrogate?
No, he's, there's a couple thousand attorneys working for the Department of Justice in the state of California.
But didn't he have to authorize?
Becerra was, the top guy, the Attorney General, but he is the one defending the state in that action. And so lawyers working for the State Department of Justice were the ones appearing, and perhaps they also hired outside counsel to But
This has to be authorized by the Attorney General, right? I mean, they just don't go out or not.
well, no, what happened is you don't authorize it. Paulette's group sued the state of California. So the state of California had to defend the lawsuit. And Becerra, did a poor job, thankfully. What else is new? And Paulette's group had really an incredible victory that's going to live on throughout the history of America, Paulette. You know how it sounds like you have enough knowledge as to how these kind of opinions, they stand the test of time for many, many, many decades.
Paulette, I'm down to
Right.
45 seconds before break. Do you mind staying for another segment?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, everybody out there, stay tuned. What you're hearing about is a landmark case that a citizen filed, just like the citizens file on the recall. Everybody out there, hold your ears, hide the people under 18 that can't vote, because I'm going to say it's Friday nights at the French Laundry. It's on, baby. September. It's coming up. Recall Gavin2020.com.
It was not that vacant, like 100 peeps or more. How could I forget that I had Bandolindo gatherings? Just a prime example of a really big hypocrisy.
Always a fun song.
Hey, ABC News.
We can't hear you, bud.
Sharon Reardon on
Let's
this
try that
4th of
trick.
July
How does that work?
weekend. Nearly 15 million people have skipped their
There you
second
go.
dose of the coronavirus vaccine. Second
Aha.
shot is recommended
So yeah,
for
always a fun
What's
song. I
needed.
like that. That's a good song. But,
Absolutely.
we got to be grateful for people like Paulette, Eric, Kylie, and Gallagher. For stepping up and stepping forth and putting lawsuits against what Gavin has done to our state.
Yeah, they're the champions of our rights, and they're the ones that are keeping the government accountable and representative of the people they serve. They cannot ignore us any longer.
Right.
And it's same with the recall. We're going to keep pushing. We're going to keep fighting back. We're going to keep driving this movement forward until the government returns to its roots and becomes accountable and representative of the people they serve again. I know Susan's on tonight. Susan, you got any breaking news for us or any important information you want to pass?
I'm just going to, I love my car magnets and my flag. Oh my goodness. I'm meeting so many wonderful people and reminding them about the September and the election. So yeah, I'm really excited, pumped up. My car's all tricked out.
Get out the vote. That's what's important.
Oh, yeah.
People don't need fancy car magnets and stuff like that. They can just use that chalk paint and paint their windows up just like they're going to a school event.
Yeah.
So,
So happy Independence Day, everyone. Wow, right around the corner for, even gaining our independence here in California from what some call the tyranny of Gavin Newsom.
happy Independence Day, folks. Coming up.
You have your fireworks? Has everybody got their fireworks, or we can where we're at, we can have fireworks, so pretty excited.
I haven't gotten any fireworks yet, but every year we go to the Lincoln, the city of Lincoln, to their fireworks show. They have one of the best fireworks displays in the region. The little town of Lincoln, they do a really good job. It's been sad because the last 2 years or a year at least, there hasn't been a fireworks show or parade or anything like that.
Yeah.
So that's what's really going to be fun, is getting back into the swing of things and getting back out there and enjoying our, citizenship, our camaraderie, and, getting together and picnicking and going out and, celebrating.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nevada County is going to have a parade, a float, and it's all tricked out in recall banners and signage. So I'll get lots of pictures and I'll be on it. I'll probably do a live stream from it, I think. So
Nice. Very good.
Yeah.
Are you going to be the Statue of Liberty out there?
Haha.
I got
You could probably pass.
a lighted headpiece for it, so that's kind of fun, but we'll see.
Very good.
I'll look forward to seeing your live feed.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. I think we're gonna get a lot of support. I really do.
Fight back with your accident injury attorney.
Very good.
Yep.
Tim, what's going on in your world?
Oh,
You've been a busy man.
oh, very busy. Just trying to keep afloat right now. That's about it. A lot of interesting things going on in my personal life as well as in the social media world. And just trying to keep things moving forward. And, you know,
Totally understand.
Full steam ahead with Recall Gavin 2020.
Very good.
Yes. Oh, we're back on.
It's Friday night at the French Laundry. On the menu tonight, a better California with executive chef Orrin Heatley and maitre d' Mike Netter.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to our Friday Nights at the French Laundry, our restaurant all about California politics. Orrin, did you know, Orrin, as I see you put your headset on, because again, you want to see Orrin put his headset on? We stream live on Facebook, on YouTube, all across, everywhere around the country, so you can see the radio show. But Orrin, did you know tonight, I don't even think you knew, you were having prepared for you by Paulette a special 3-course meal of the First, Fifth, and 14th Amendment.
Absolutely. No, it's phenomenal what they've been able to achieve. And it's just, you know, we are going to keep pushing this movement forward with people like Eric, with people like Paulette, and you know, others throughout the state that are championing the cause. And you know, we are going to return the government of California and the United States back to its root form, back to its foundation. And we're not going to stop until the politicians become accountable and representative of the people they serve again.
Yeah, and you know, Paulette, I've got to ask you too. First off, I want to thank you. You and I started talking about a year ago, and again, some of this takes a while to get through my fuzzy brain. Because for everybody out there, I want to change my question for the night. Thanks you, Paulette. But if you call in tonight, if we have the time to talk to you, 1-800-222-5222. Again, 1-800-222-5222. You've reminded me of some important things, Paulette, that I don't want people to forget. For everybody out there, I got a question for you. What freedom did you miss the most why Gavin had California locked down that people like Paulette fought for you? Paulette, when this went to court, in effect, did you versus the state of California, did you get reimbursed for attorney fees, or how did this, I mean, this wasn't obviously done through like your typical legal clinic. So how does this work? You go to court, goes all the way to the Supreme Court. I'm assuming not anybody gets in front of the Supreme Court. Do you get awarded attorney's fees, or how does that work?
Well, we got awarded some attorney's fees, but we were only able to take the free exercise claim on the emergency motions track to the Supreme Court. So, and the lawyers, of course, they were unbilled parts of their fees. So we got a small percentage back, but most of it, my husband and I covered out of our savings.
You know, it's actually, and first off, thank you so much.
Well, this ruling, it's incredible. I believe in this ruling, Paula, didn't Gorsuch say, Justice Gorsuch say something like Newsom's letting people go to Costco's, but he's not letting people worship in their own home.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, that's right. And, normally the home gets a higher precedence, in terms of your rights in your own home. But the state was claiming the right to have marijuana stores open and Costco open and Walmart open, but you couldn't have more than 4 other people in your home. It was just outrageous.
And, it goes right to the heart of so much of what so many of us were fighting for the last year and a half of this tyrant up there and his minions, for example, down here that run the LA County Board of Supervisors, and then the kneeler in chief, Eric Garcetti, who kept locking us down, locking us up, destroying small businesses. All we'd hear about is the science, the science, the science. Nobody ever saw the science. Nobody ever saw the data. And, and it's something I've been saying for so long, as what I do for a living as a I litigate, some pretty important cases. And when you get closer to trial, every party hires an expert. And so in some cases where you got scientific issues, one party hires scientific experts, the other party hires scientific experts. Both sides have resumes that would make your head spin. Mike, they're not as good as yours, but I'm talking Harvard and Yale and everything. So they come off from their resumes as if they're geniuses. And by some miracle, they both come down with completely the opposite opinions, right? And these characters, yes, and this Joe Newsom running this state, they kept telling us how they're following the science. But there were geniuses on the other side, science that completely contradicted what they were following and using to lock us down.
And you know
The
what I'm a
only
little bit
difference
curious.
with that
Go ahead, Oren.
is the fact that the opposition has been silenced and censored by
That's
social
exactly
media,
right.
news
Mhm.
and so forth. So if there was a dissenting view, nobody got to hear about it, or they got banned from those platforms.
Well, that's a real
Yes,
good point,
totally
Paulette.
banned.
I want to
Amazing.
ask you about that because there was a change. And Paulette, I'll be honest, I don't remember if it was your case or not, but it might have been. So when it first came out, we were not allowed to gather, not just only in our homes, we were not allowed to gather except for whatever they came up. And they changed the California, if you want to call it code, to say, well, now you can at least gather for political purposes. Or I don't know if you remember or not.
I remember that. That was the result actually of our lawsuit.
That's what I was thinking, correct.
Yes, yes.
And that
They,
is,
they only allowed protests to start with. I mean, if you remember right at the beginning, they weren't allowing protests. I mean, I attended some of the protests in Sacramento where people were protesting the loss of their livelihood. These are small business owners who are going bankrupt. And, we had the police come down on us, and they had made protests illegal, which is absurd. And as soon as the BLM protests started, they suddenly protests were okay because they wanted those protests to happen. But that did not include political gatherings, like Ritesh Tandon was actually his name is the one that, the lawsuit is known by, but he was one of our political, First Amendment political speech plaintiffs. And, but when we filed our lawsuit, the state contacted us, and I guess they knew that was not going to go down well. And so they actually changed the definition of who could get together to include political gatherings, but only outdoors.
Yeah. Well, Oren,
in public spaces.
Yeah, and I want Oren to really jump in here because what you did, Paulette, and again, there's been so much going on, was actually critically important to the recall because technically we weren't allowed, of course, on the air, we all obeyed the law to the nth degree, but technically we were not allowed, Oren, to even go out and gather signatures until this ruling came down, which is why you heard me say if LA shuts you down, it won't let you walk the street, carry a petition with you because then it's a political protest, right, Oren?
The first rally that I had participated in for the recall was May 1st, at the onset of what was going on with the shutdowns. And our governor ordered the arrest of 32 of our people who were out there. They were not even protesting. They were just gathered on the lawn at the Capitol, and the governor made a decision to move everybody off the lawn. Get off my lawn. And, the people who stood their ground were hauled off and cuffed and booked, given a court date and arrested, which is, but shortly after that, you were there. Yeah. And shortly after that, the BLM protests were allowed to continue unchecked with no arrest. So I have a question though. I mentioned social media. Was there any change to your social media?
In mine?
No. Paulette, we got 2 minutes and we make you do another segment.
Kicked off Facebook or no?
No, I wasn't, but I guess I wasn't a big enough name. They silenced all the people with lots of followers, but I guess I was below the radar.
Dang it, that's why they took me off.
Yes, Oren, they got you and Paulette confused because you both sound exactly alike. Listen, Paulette, we've got about a minute to go here. I want to say, I don't think a lot of people realize the unsung heroes of the recall. And you are truly one of the unsung heroes.
American hero.
Really are. And, you know, you and I started talking. In the meantime, as Oren and I are out there, Rah Rah, Sis Boom Ba, along with all these amazing volunteers gathering signatures, I want everybody out there to understand Paulette, out of her own livelihood, right, went to court to defend us and our right to gather signatures, everybody. Everybody out there, remember, we're going to roll to a break. Paulette, I want you on for a couple minutes afterwards. If you can hang in there, can you?
Sure. Mhm,
Okay.
yeah.
Understand the power of the First Amendment of the Constitution. We, the people, have rights. We have people like Paulette, Warren, Eric, and myself, and all of you out there standing up to Gavin Newsom. And don't forget, call in if you want and tell us what you missed the most as Gavin tried to rob you of your rights. Everybody out there, batten down the hatches because I'm ready to roll. It's Friday nights at the French Laundry. KABC, all the way from the national border, Oregon, streaming everywhere and live on Facebook and YouTube. Contribute. Recall Gavin2020.com.
Rain's just a prime example of a really big hypocrisy. You don't understand we're not like other creatures. You do not.
Yes, folks, don't forget to donate to recallgavin2020.com and keep the radio show going live.
There's only 19 people on our, and I think we outnumber the guests on our show tonight, but this will get restreamed and there are several thousand of people who will be watching this over the next week or so.
Yeah, so just a reminder, this is streamed live on our Facebook groups and then broadcasted later onto YouTube.
Yep, it's not quite as long as the Mark Durham videos, but we're stretching the envelope.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, Mark, I had to throw you under the bus there. Mark, for those of you who don't know who Mark is, you can find him on Facebook. He's a very outspoken gentleman and a good friend of mine in the recall campaign itself. So,
one of the first people to put together the do-it-yourself packs. That was just an awesome thing that he did to get the recall on a very, very good start.
And Mark literally drove up and down the state with his daughters, with his 3 little daughters, to every single county in California. They got a great education on geography here in California as they drove the state, learning different aspects from the Oregon border to the Mexican border. And, they did a wonderful thing for us. And I'm sure he is responsible for many thousands of signatures that came in. And it's that kind of drive, initiative, energy that kept this thing going from day one.
Yeah. And a wonderful, well-behaved children as well. Very good kids.
They're a little shy, but they were very, very good. And they'll remember this for the rest of their lives.
Yep.
So, is that us going back on?
Yes, it is.
All right.
Well, everybody, welcome back to our virtual restaurant. Let me tell you, this is a moment in history that's happening this week as the recall has been scheduled for September 14th. Paulette, we actually have someone calling in that might want to talk to you. He has quite the varied background. He filled in for me when I was being held hostage, allegedly, a couple of weeks ago. Do you mind talking to Moses for a second? Moses, how you doing? I see you a comment there.
Hey, Mike, how you guys doing?
Dude, how are you doing? Thanks for standing and holding down the fort.
Moses.
Hey, you know what? When I heard the date, September 14th, I was so excited. You know what? And it's all coming together. Here he is trying to pay off all the unpaid rent for all these people that were not paying their rent because of the, quote unquote, the COVID pandemic issues. And now he wants to bail all these people out. That to me translates a desperate man trying to buy their votes. I mean, that is crazy. I'm surprised that's not a crime. That should be investigated as to, he's using that to try to appeal to those folks. so then maybe they'll vote against the recall, and it's just crazy. That part makes me sick. But he's going down. His days are numbered.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, it's amazing. And Moses, you're retired law enforcement. Yes, I know. I get that all the time. Oren's like, I'm not ex, I'm retired. So sorry, Moses. And you were in Los Angeles, correct?
Yes.
All right. Now, I want you to, Paulette, you know, you've been listening to the show. I mean, how do you feel as a retired law enforcement in Los Angeles if you'd had to enforce the fact that we couldn't have gathered signatures? And I want you to talk to Paulette about that for a second, because literally we were technically banned from being allowed to assemble and gather signatures.
Wow, that is crazy. That should be investigated. I know that our friend Eric Early, if when he's elected to the Attorney General's office, he would definitely do the right thing and follow the law. And whenever the law is,
Thanks for the shout out, buddy.
Yeah, well, there you are. Cool. And if you know, if they are not going to allow us to enforce the law, or here in this case, they're going to break the law, then we can't, you know, investigate him and hold him accountable. That's why we need to. I've been saying this all along. We need to elect leaders who are going to put people first, support law enforcement, and put criminals last. And that's what it's all about.
Absolutely. Moses, thanks. I want to roll back to our guest, your brother. Thank you so much. You keep calling in, man. You
Thanks, Moses.
Quite the point.
Great hearing from you, buddy.
Paulette, you know, again, I think you see that how people, one of the reasons we wanted the show is people forget the rights that were taken away from us that you defended in court. I mean, it's really amazing. And again, this is a political show, right? So the fact people weren't allowed to gather to worship is atrocious. The fact we weren't even allowed to go out on the streets and issue the home and just state our mind. What really got you fired up about this, Paulette? What was like the final straw that made you spend some of your savings on going to court?
Well, you know, when all your rights are suspended, it's hard to know which is the tipping point. I mean, it was all so outrageous, and even more outrageous that the courts were just stepping aside and letting it happen. Not just in the first few days or first couple of weeks, but it was months, and now it's years. And but I would say that what really ended up galvanizing us was looking at the hardship. You know, people who were losing, the small business owners going bankrupt, losing their life savings, the service workers, you know, who were. I mean, we saw these heart-rending photos of people in the mile-long food banks. You know, people in tears. Who couldn't feed their families. It was, the whole thing was outrageous, and more outrageous was that, as I mentioned at the beginning, though I don't want to get lost in the data and the science did not support what was going on, and the misery and the hardship was just, unbearable. So that's what galvanized us finally to try and do something about it.
Going back to something that Moses had said, and wanted to touch bases while he was on the phone, but you know, there are people out there with $25,000, $35,000 of back rent as due, and this governor is pledging to forgive all of that debt, student debt, traffic tickets, you know, unpaid parking tickets and things like that. And you know, Paulette, it shows that these people are power hungry, and they are going to do anything they can to stay in office and maintain control over the population. What did it for me, Paulette, was the 10 o'clock curfew. And, you know, the unscientific 10 o'clock curfew that he imposed on the entire state for no good reason. It wasn't backed by science. And everything that he did, it eroded the confidence that people had in his ability to lead. And that's why I think you took the extraordinary action that you did in order to push back on that, because you found yourself in a point where you were no longer had faith in this governor's ability to make decisions, effective decisions on our behalf. And I think that's why the recall was so successful, because people just lost confidence in his ability to lead. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I think we have a huge problem in what's happened because, once you suspend people's rights and people in power see that people will accept it, which is much worse. I never expected to see that in America. Yes. I'm an immigrant. And you can be quite sure that now that people who with a taste for power, whoever they may be, at the county level, we had in our county, certainly, and I know in others, totally tyrannical health officers who were, little dictators, except not so little, because in my county is 2 million people. Of course, I know LA County is 8 million, much larger, but even so, who could decide to put us all under house arrest. And these are, so we had 58, little dictatorships, and then we had the state of California, had suspended the Bill of Rights and every other right as well. So I think the real danger that we have here is now that people with a taste for power have seen that it's possible to do this and that the population accepts it, it will happen again unless we do something about it. And we have to be very vigilant about this, because this is not going to be a one-off if we don't make some changes.
Those are great points, Paulette. One of the things that shocked me throughout this entire situation was how easily such a large portion of the population just gave up their rights. It was amazing. So many of us had figured out after a while, wait a second, this is just not right, the way everything is closed down. All Newsom had to do was follow Florida and Texas, for example. That's all you had to do. Just sit back, follow Florida and Texas. They got it right. They open up so much. I mean, Florida schools have been open since last August, for example. Small businesses were allowed to be alive and not be killed off. But Newsom, knew better. And there was Newsom. And then there was this LA County Board of Supervisors here that was led around on a leash by the person I call the crypt keeper, named Dr. Barbara Ferrer, the doctor, because they got a PhD. She was the one telling everybody to be locked down because she obviously is a lockdown crazy herself who probably is scared of her own shadow.
I want to make two important points here, Paulette, before we roll the break in a couple minutes here. The two important points are this. You went to a federal court. There's kind of two big things here that our sous chef could talk about after the break when we have a big announcement, everybody. But the two important things here are, we have a U.S. Constitution that's considered the supreme document, as they say, under law. California can write no laws, take no actions, correct, Eric? That violates what they call the supreme document.
Well, you can't violate the Constitution.
Well, that's what I meant.
But they try to.
No. We have a California Constitution. You can't write anything in the California Constitution that takes away those rights. You got to go to federal court because they were violating our federal rights in the state of California. The second thing is, in California courts, you made a very important point in the beginning of this interview. You were told, hey, so much for the kids being able to go back to school and our state constitution because they don't care. Isn't that correct?
Unfortunately, yes. And we were told the higher up you go in the California court system, the worse it gets, which is a very sad state of affairs. It should be the other way around.
Unfortunately, for the most part, with limited exception, that is very true. Unbelievably politicized our state court system is.
Paulette, we've got about a minute and a half here. I want to ask you, how do people, I know I get kind of a newsletter and email list. How do they get, I already know how do they get on their list? How do they find you to find out more about the power of the decisions that went in your favor and what you're doing going forward? How do they find you, Paulette?
Right. We have a website, savecalifstate.com. I don't think it's been updated, I'm afraid, with the Supreme Court decision, but we should probably do that now that we're talking about it.
What is it called? We're going to run low on time. What's it called?
savecalifstate.com.
Spell it for us.
Oh, SAVECALIFSTATE.com.
Okay. And Paulette, tell everybody the name of the great case that went up to the Supreme Court.
It was Tandon versus Newsom, TANDON.
So go out there and Google Tandem versus Newsom.
Forever on
right-
the books of the
right
United
after you
States of
right
America.
after you Google recallgavin2020.com. I also want to say you gave me, Paulette, the line of the night. Gavin Newsom galvanized Paulette. God bless you on the 4th of July. I just think that's a great line. Gavin Newsom galvanized you. Paulette, thank you very much. We look forward to talking to you soon. We're running up against the hard time that they call 8 o'clock here in radio. Thank you so much.
Thanks for
spending
everything,
3
Paulette.
seconds.
You're an American hero.
You are
God
an American
bless you.
hero
Thank you,
on
Mike.
the 4th
Thank
of
you.
July.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank
And
you, Eric.
Way to bring it together. Look, everybody out there, we've got a very important announcement how the recall is standing up after the 8 o'clock hour. So please stay tuned. Call in if you want. 1-800-222-5222. Remember, the recall is on. It's showtime. It is Friday nights at the French Laundry, KABC, all over California, live every recall. Gavin, now, 2020.com.
Your foie gras donated. So we saw you at a party.
It wasn't me.
Eating at the French Laundry.
It wasn't me.
Mike must have watched Beetlejuice over the weekend.
Yes, he has, or something to that effect. It's showtime.
It's showtime. Very good.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
All right. Any questions for, I'm not seeing any comments or questions coming
Oh,
through.
nothing new.
Nothing new. Okay. Very good.
Let me check the Facebook.
You guys are supposed to feed us questions during the show so I can answer them during the break.
So we have something from Dawn out of Los Angeles. Really, really, really hope everyone listens to her. So Paulette was definitely a pleasure to have on the show. That'd be great to have her on again.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike and I are actually working with Paulette a little bit to help champion some initiatives that they have coming forward. And I just want to say that Mike and I are moving forward with Robin and Susan and Dan, and we're pushing other items out there. So this isn't done just with this recall. We're not going to stop here, folks. This is the recall. It was phase 1. But as we move forward, we take the momentum that we gain here and we're going to apply that to other areas. The people of California are a co-equal branch of government. Like I always say, we vote the officials into office. We can recall them and remove them from office if we feel the need is great enough. And we can also bring initiatives to the ballot through the petition process. We can change, we can make amendments to the state constitution.
Yeah.
We can put water bonds on the table. We can build our own reservoirs. If the government won't do it for us on our behalf, if they're not representing us well enough, we can represent ourselves. And that's exactly what we're starting with this movement, with the California Patriot Coalition. The recall of this governor is just step 1, and we're going to continue to move forward. We need a governor in office who's going to work with the people and the people's initiatives to get things done. When Governor Schwarzenegger was taken into office, voted in, he was short-sighted. He was a celebrity placeholder, and he really didn't know how to work with the legislators, so he didn't get a lot done. And he ended up being labeled as a pretty much a rhino by the end, because he was just, he served out the second term and did another term after that. But by the time he was done, he ended up becoming more of a hindrance to a lot of the things that we wanted than not. So, we want to avoid that this time. We need somebody that's going to be in office who we can all get behind, who's going to get behind us, the people of California, and champion our cause. So if the people bring an initiative to the ballot, they're not going to fight it. This government has fought every initiative that has been put on the ballot by the people. They're standing in opposition to the people, and that's not acceptable.
All right.
Check out their podcast at kirbyslaw.com.
Sounds like we're going to go on in just a second.
All right.
Yeah, we have traffic. Okay. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of names out there on the ballot, so definitely do your homework and do your research. And
Absolutely.
look for those that are actually already fighting for the state. There's some, like I said, there's some good names out there.
I know there's people that have written the book on the matter.
Yeah. So folks, so get out there on those, Independence Day rallies and have some fun and wave your flags around. Get the recall out there.
Got the flags, got the banners, get them out there and be seen and be heard. Stand and be.
All right, we're back.
Recall Committee, California Patriot Coalition. Recall Governor Newsom 2020. Number 1424018. Committee major funding from others include Rescue California. Recall Gavin Newsom. File 39 LLC. BGB Ranch. This is your 5-star spot for a smorgasbord of information from RecallGavin2020.com. In a tasty, non-caloric, gluten-free bite. It's Friday night at the French Laundry with Executive Chef Oren Heatley and Maitre D' Mike Netter.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to our so-called second seating or second hour tonight of Friday Nights at the French Laundry, our virtual restaurant about California politics, where the main entree is getting slowly cooked, and that's the recall of Governor Gavin Newsom. Listen, if you missed the first hour on what I call Happy Rockets Day Eve, I guess, 4th of July, Sullivan and Crunch, you missed an amazing interview with Paulette. An amazing American who went to court with her own dime, so to speak, because of what went on in California defending our First Amendment rights. And tonight is really about the 4th of July and the fact that even though you're in California, and even though we have to take the legal step of having to recall Gavin Newsom, where, as you know, the election set for September 14th, we're still in the United States. And Oren, I'm going to go ahead and break this actual breaking news now. I would say if you don't mind, but it really doesn't matter if you do, but I was trying to be polite. Remember, we're streaming live on Facebook if you want to see the look of angst on Oren's face when I say something like that. I want to put in frame for you Monday night. Now, here's how I look at what happened Monday night. The California legislature, with their supermajority, said, well, we're really worried about this recall election. We think we better speed it up. And God bless them. I think that's going to work in our favor. I never saw it say God bless to that legislature, but let's leave it alone. Fact of the matter is they changed the same recall rules that they just put in effect to save someone else's posterior, as I was supposed to say on the radio, I believe in 2017, 2018. But let's put that down. Here's really the punchline. So SB 152, they rushed through the legislature. Kylie got up, gave an impassioned speech on the floor, which got cut off. You can look it up, saying it's not fair to do what we're doing. A different time, elections going forward, but to change the rules of the game. All right, so be it. They used their power to do that. Now, I want you to put you in the hallways of the state capitol at probably about, let's just say for the sake, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock on Monday afternoon. They're standing outside Gavin's office with SB 152. But there's other news for Gavin. The other news is they go and say, Gavin, we've got good news for you. We've managed to get through the legislature with the ability to speed up this recall because we're trying to protect you against the stupid things you have done and are going to do. But we have other news for you, Gavin. When we rushed and turned in this paperwork with the reply, misstating the election costs, by the way, to Oren Heatley, Mike Netter, and the rest of the proponents, back in February of 2020, we kind of made a mistake. We forgot to mark that you were a Democrat. Yes, you're hearing correctly. This is where, my friends, it gets surreal and bizarre. And this is what we're doing about it. So Gavin Newsom doesn't have his party technically marked on the recall ballot. We're asked if he's been removed. Again, be clear, he's not on the ballot. So Gavin, in his own way, threw a temper tantrum. He called, or his people did, Shirley Weber, his handpicked Secretary of State, and asked Shirley Weber to make an exception. Shirley goes, I can't. I know you picked me, Gavin. Thanks for the gig. But reality is, I can't. You're a year and a half overdue. Gavin,
She deserves a lot of credit for that, by the way.
She does, actually. Hands up to her,
Mhm.
But Gavin cared so little, they didn't even look at the paperwork when they turned it in. So Gavin Newsom is worried, of course, because some of the people out there don't know he's a Democrat, apparently. And so Gavin Newsom, on Tuesday morning, are you ready for this? Sued, the governor of California sued the state of California to change the election law, to change basically so he can get himself listed that we're recalling a Democratic governor. Now, we out there in the recall are not going to stand for this. And thanks to our sous chef, we're doing something about it. Oren, you know what we're doing? I'm going to let Eric break this news if you don't mind, all right?
Drum roll, please.
Drum roll, please.
Oh, that's a great drum roll back there.
Thank we have
Mike, I didn't
Oren's
know you
got
were
a
a
set of
musician.
drums
Oh,
and
it's
stuff.
Oren up
We've
there?
got a full musical band.
You guys
actually
are good.
behind us. We
You
really
guys
do
are
musical.
good.
But understand, there is a hearing July 12th because Gavin is suing himself. Basically.
So as you were saying, back in February 2020, pursuant to a law that Newsom himself signed, when he had a deadline to respond to your recall petition, and he did. And when he did that,
he was late.
Oh, he was late. Correct.
I'm not going to let that go unsaid.
Thank you, Art.
He was
late.
3 days late, and he only had a 200-word limit. What does he do? 201 words. I couldn't put 201 words on, but he could because the rules don't apply.
This is why this incredible team did this magic. I'll tell you something. These guys here, Oren, Mike, thousands of incredible volunteers. I mean, just an amazing team. So, but as part of that, response, that was Newsom's deadline to put on it whether or not he wanted his party affiliation listed next to his name on the special election ballot. And so he could have said, no, I don't want my party affiliation next to my name, or yes, I want a D next to my name. He didn't put anything. And that was about 6 months ago or so. And just the other day, as Mike was referring to, Newsom recall, holy cow, this recall is happening. We just monkeyed around with the entire system, and we've been able to speed up the recall. But wait a second, the ballot right now doesn't show a D next to it. And so Newsom calls up his buddy, the Secretary of State, who he appointed, Dr. Shirley Weber, said, listen, just throw the D on there. And she said, no, you have to go to court, to her credit. So about 4 or 5 days ago, Newsom sues the state of California to overcome his mistake so he can have a D next to his name. And we on the recall team doubt that the Secretary of State or the Attorney General, also a completely handpicked shill of Gavin Newsom, are going to put up much of a fight. So next week, we're going to be filing a motion to intervene in that lawsuit. The proposed interveners are going to be Oren and Mike and the California Patriot Coalition. And we're going to seek to intervene and do everything we can do to get in that case and prevent Newsom from putting that D next to his name. And that might sound like a triviality, or that might sound to all of us on this show who follow politics like, come on, everybody knows Newsom's a Democrat. No, they don't.
Let me jump in here with 2 minutes. Understand something. Got asked this in interviews. We got a lot. We've got some callers to take. We got about 2 minutes left. But I want everybody to understand something. If this was really trivial, Gavin Newsom wouldn't be in effect suing himself. So the fact that Gavin cares about it, let me put it to you this way. Gavin cares about Gavin. He doesn't care about our rights. He didn't even care enough about the recall to turn in a proper response.
Mike, let me go even further. These people in the Politburo, in the mainstream media, and Gavin Newsom himself have been taking advantage of the low information voters in the electorate for decades. And they've totally taken advantage of everybody. That's how they got the Safe Neighborhoods and Schools Act passed, which turned out to be Proposition 47, caused the largest rise in crime probably in history of California. That's how they were able to defeat the gas tax recall. They take advantage of the low information voter, and that's why Newsom is freaked out now, because he knows if there's not a D next to his name, there are many voters out there who may not vote for him because they don't know he's a Democrat.
Absolutely. And understand this, just as the recallgavin2020.com, the California Patriots Coalition led by Orrin and myself, stood up to get this petition on the ballot. That's one reason we asked for donations. We're standing up now to stand in Gavin's way as he tries to get that all-important D next to his name. That hearing is July 12th, Tuesday. Gavin, you've been warned. We're coming, baby. It is Friday nights at the French Laundry, serving up the recall. KABC, recallgavin20.com. Stay tuned. We got more for you.
Could I forget that I had Bandolindo gatherings? Just a prime example of a really big hypocrisy. You don't understand when that's like
ABC dependable traffic right now. In Sherman Oaks, 405 freeway northbound at Burbank Boulevard, a crash. Right lane's been shut down for a time.
I don't know, folks. I think he deserves a D next to his name because that's the grade we're going to give him.
And heading toward Burbank Boulevard.
Right?
He is a failed political officer.
Well, if we can give the letter F, can we?
Yep, there you go.
Was cutting down all northbound lanes in Acton for a time.
And there's a few reasons for that letter F, failed in so many different levels. And here's one of my favorites. You're fired.
You're fired.
Are in debt to the IRS? This is important news. The IRS just rolled out a new program to help struggling taxpayers more easily resolve their tax
You
problems.
got the radio turned up pretty loud.
Oh, I'm
Somebody
sorry.
does.
Let me turn it down a little bit. There you go. I like it loud. Come on.
All right, folks, bring me your questions. Come on. I know you have questions, comments from the field. If Ellen's listening in, Dawn, if you're listening in, post your comments, post your questions. Let people know what's going on in your world out there and what you've been working on. I know Ellen was on the news earlier today for supporting the volunteer efforts in her region. And I know that Dawn has things that are cooking down in Los Angeles in the Santa Clarita Valley.
Yep. So for those of you on YouTube later, tune in on Friday nights. We make the announcements on all of our Facebook groups and our emails. The more participation, the better. So that way we can bring back questions back into the radio show.
And you guys also can call into the radio show at
1-800-222-5222. We're back on.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to our virtual restaurant. We just made on the air the announcement that we're standing up to Gavin. Okay, again, not only for the recall taking place September 14th, we're going to stand in his way by getting that little D beside his name, which is so important to him because a lot of you out there in California, quit voting just for the party. Vote for California. That's what the recall is about. Orrin, we're backed up with callers. I have not been a terrific maitre d' tonight, but I've got to ask you a question. We've got to go through some callers here. Orrin, do you by any chance have any birthday cakes back there?
I can whip one up.
Whip one up with 16 candles on it, because the first one I'm going to go to is our birthday girl of the week, Magalina. We're going to give you about a minute and a half tonight because we are backed up. How you doing there, groupie?
You remembered my birthday.
Of course I
Hi.
did.
Oh
How
my
could I forget,
God,
Magdalene?
Oh, Mike, I love you. Now, you know I was the
Magdalena, what do you think about giving the governor his D? I think he deserves a D, if not an F.
Oh, honey, he deserves a D, F, whatever. By the way, just so everybody know, when I got the news from the San Francisco Chronicle, I called Mike. I left a message and say, extra, extra, read all about it. It is on. And that was just great. I called Mike right away or emailed Mike right away.
And
Let him know what's
what day
going
did
on.
they announce that, Magdalena?
They announced it
Thursday.
the day after my birthday.
That, I
July
got to
3rd.
tell you, anything, and like I said, we're to keep rolling tonight. Magdalena announced your station, but I got to tell you, anything the legislature has done, I am most disappointed they did not announce the recall on your birthday and missed it by 24 hours. God bless you. How do we find all the recordings that you put up?
Magdalena Recall Radio, we rock. And Mike, love you all. I know you got to keep it short and sweet like me, but I'm glad to be on the air for the moment.
Rock on. Thank you so much. Okay. I want to go next to Brent from Los Angeles as we kind of go through them. Brent, you say you think Larry Elder would be a good candidate. Tell us, talk to us.
Yes. Well, first, a blessed 4th of July, Mike Oren, and awesome Attorney General Eric Early.
Brent calls into my radio show every week. How you doing, buddy?
Okay, but you're going to need an equally awesome governor such as Larry Elder to run. Because apparently this morning on an inferior radio show, he said he was seriously considering running for the governorship, but he's looking for the proper backing, and he's still considering it. So I'm putting it out there. I'm hoping to start a buzz and to have everybody keep begging him to run. I think he'd be the perfect guy for the job.
Let me tell you something here. And I want to, and Brent, thank you very much. We got a lot of callers to roll through. I know you call into Eric's show a lot. So look, dude, we appreciate you and all the support there. But I want to be clear on one thing everybody out there doesn't understand a lot. And thank you for giving me a good opening to talk about it. What's misunderstood about the recall election is bring on the candidates. Because the more candidates that come on, and everybody's going to have a different favorite candidate. Brent, you may love Larry Elder. Somebody else may love the guy with the bear. Somebody else may love the mayor from San Diego. Somebody else loves somebody else. But here's the thing about the recall election that's not understood. It's Gavin Newsom versus himself. That the more people that come out to run that you see, it means more people will come out to vote. And this is a good opportunity for us, right? To say this, that, literally, and Cal Matters had talked about earlier this week, that 75% of the Republican base is fired up about the recall, but only 39% of the Democrats even cared. Meaning that Newsom has a very short period of time to get people fired up. My point being, bring it on September 14th.
It's going to be really interesting. We can probably expect all kinds of TV commercial advertising between now and September 14th. It is such a short window, and TV advertising, especially in a statewide race, is so expensive. And there's a couple candidates in. Everybody who's following this stuff knows that. And whatever money people have, we're going to start seeing commercials upon commercials upon commercials. Newsom is backed up by, these billionaires out there. And so we're going to have to slog through his nauseating commercials over and over again. If I see him sweeping the dirt off of sidewalk one more time, I'm probably going to throw up. It's like, no doubt they got him. They said, okay, Gavin, here's a broom. Sweep that. We'll get a shot. Good. They're making it look like he actually, does that kind of stuff.
Which, by the way, I'd like to make an open offer to Gavin, in addition to always coming on our radio show. Please come by my house anytime and sweep my sidewalk off, dude. I want to get that picture. I really do. But let's leave that down for a second here. I think it's really important, Oren, to note that Cal Matters has another great article out, Oren, that, these ads that Gavin's running. California isn't quite making the comeback. We'll go into that maybe in a later segment. But Oren, what do you say we talk to Susan from Santa Monica right now?
Do it.
Hi there. Thank you for taking my call.
Well, thank you, Susan, for calling in.
Yeah, and just for the record, I actually helped in the recall in those grade days, so I have some experience with that. And what I want to know is what my concern is, Secretary of State wants to make universal mail-in balloting permanent. And they sent out 22 million ballots in 2020. And what's to stop the voter fraud, especially what happened in 2020 and all the irregularities in all states? It seems like the six is in. And that's my huge concern. They're sending it. There's no way in God's green earth that they have 22 million eligible voters in a population of 36 million people. It's just, I've done voter reg and qualified and which gets in the ballot going back to 93, and it's just virtually impossible. So what can we do to stop that?
Well, Eric, I'm going to let Eric talk to this because he's on the election integrity lawsuit, which probably won't be, decided on in time or get a judgment on time for this election. But Eric, go ahead and talk to this because I like the election integrity lawsuit that you're a plaintiff on. You're not a lawyer on it. Is that correct?
That's correct. The lead plaintiff is Election Integrity Project, and then several plaintiffs, former congressional candidates. As you know, I ran against the despicable Adam Schiff. I was the official Republican candidate. So I'm one of the plaintiffs in that case. The LA Times recently wrote a hit piece on the Election Integrity Project, really despicable, frankly.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, as far as low as that outfit stoops, I'm talking about the LA Times, they stooped about as low as they could recently on that hit piece. But listen, we need a new governor in office. A new governor in office, preferably a governor with an R next to his or her name, will sign an executive order to counter the executive order that Newsom signed starting this universal mail-in balloting and outlawed in this state. And we need people in the legislature also. This is something to vote against it. And this is something I say to everybody out there. I don't have, and I know the other guys on the recall team don't have anything against how anybody is registered to vote, regardless, Republican, Democrat, no party preference, et cetera, et cetera. But the elected officials have left the Democrat voters by. And right now, we really literally have one party rule in the state of California. And the finger can be pointed to this one party, the Democrat elected officials, for the bills leading to the rise in crime, for these universal mail-in balloting situations, for all of this kind of terrible stuff that's going on in the state. Regardless of how you're registered to vote, we need fairness again up in Sacramento. So start considering, even if you're a Democrat, all you know party preference, folks, vote for your state assembly person, a Republican. Vote for your state senator, a Republican. Let's start equalizing the numbers up there. Make this state safer again. Get rid of this universal mail-in insanity, which to anybody with common sense leads to voter fraud and corruption. It's time to get fairness again. That's all we want again.
Yeah,
fairness in our government.
And Susan, I want to bring up too, it's interesting in the LA Times because they've written some good stuff. There's a couple reporters there, I'm not going to give them the honor, if you will, of mentioning the name of the air, that really missed the point. They just like to trash the recall, trash protests, trash election integrity. But Susan, the most important point you're bringing up about that just happened yesterday. The Supreme Court ruled that Arizona, right, can make their own election laws. And the Supreme, I forget the justice name because I'm not good. There's 9 of them and I can barely remember my name. But the reality is one of the justices said, I think what I've been saying all along, Susan, the reality is there's a lot of Americans, for better or for worse, and a poll came out this week that said 35% of Americans just don't trust the voting system, and that's wrong. Wouldn't you agree, Susan?
Yeah, I would agree, but my concern is how do we stop this now? I know she's the Secretary of State and she's an appointee, but the fact that she wants to make universal mail-in balloting permanent really scares the beast. How can we stop this now? Because the fix will be in. Can we do a canvassing and a recount?
Well, we can do, Susan, we could do a lot of things.
Mike, do I have to get a knife out and cut my way into this conversation?
Well, I was waiting for you to come back to cut your way in, or we got about a minute and a half left.
You know what? I think that the voting public are so lazy and they're so uninformed, and the Republicans in particular are so apathetic that I personally am for mail-in ballots, because that's the only way we're going to get a lot of these people to get off their ass, check the box, and turn the damn thing in. That's really, I mean, Mike, you have the statistics for the voter turnout in Los Angeles.
Okay.
And it is pathetic.
I do.
that
I want
the
to,
number of people that are not voting.
and Orrin, I'm going to go ahead and put you back in the kitchen for 1 second. We've got a minute left, and I want to get those statistics
I
out.
don't know, Warren. I got a huge problem with that universal mail-in balloting. By the way, the justice was Alito who
Alito,
was
thank you,
the
said
lead
that. But let me
justice on that.
go in it real quick before we hit the bottom of the hour to something very important. Just putting LA aside, I want everybody to understand their LA Times and everybody else. About 18.5 million people, Susan, thank you for your call, voted for the presidential election. Only about 13.5 million people voted in the gubernatorial election last time. All right. So I can do all kinds of statistics, as everybody knows. Here's the reality. Everybody out there, come September 14th, get out there and vote. Make sure we remove this governor of California so we don't have to worry about these issues, because frankly, what Susan has mentioned really starts at the top, and that's with Gavin. Stay tuned. We're coming back in a couple. It's Friday nights at the French Laundry, KABC, all over the country, live, video, any way you want to. Keep into Recall. Gavin2020.com.
To us, we are the leaders. Voters can be trusted to be indoor eaters. They are more contagious after.
Oh my God, I'm gonna have to fight my way into the conversation every
Oh, no
time.
kidding. Words in edgewise.
Words and edgewise between Mike and Orrin. I'm gonna get a cleaver out and cut my way in.
Right, I'll get my machete.
So, well, hey, you know what? The cook has access to those verbal knives
There
that
you
others
go.
don't. So,
County Fire Authority will help look for victims in the search.
what was the one comment that I just missed? The comments come and go so quick.
Oh, yes, they do. So,
I don't have my glasses on them. What'd Susan say? And what's that? That was not Susan Hurd on the phone, and I know that wasn't Susan Walsh that I just chopped up.
no. Speaking about, where's our other?
Meantime, about 300 residents.
Was that any of the Susans that we
Local TV
So,
talked
yeah,
to, or
yeah,
was
it's-
that somebody else?
It's one of our Susans.
deemed structurally and
Okay.
electrically unsafe by the city. Officials say the Surfside condo collapse has sparked an immediate review of all.
Yeah, the only one we should be cutting up.
The market closed.
Oh, no, I wasn't cutting on the Republicans. I'm saying that there are lazy and apathetic. Apathy is the death of the Republican Party. It is the death. People are so apathetic, and what that means is that they continually hear California is a blue state. California is a blue state. California is deep blue, like the deep blue sea that's rising on our shores. And they hear that over and over and over again, and eventually people are convinced their vote doesn't count, and they become apathetic.
Yeah.
So they don't go out to the polls, and it's just another inconvenience in their life to cast their vote. That's why I'm for mail-in ballots, because like Facebook, we can actually weaponize that system against them, just like any other system that they are using against us. We can use it to our advantage.
And for those that want to get involved with the electoral process, go to the Election Integrity Project. That's EIP-CA.com. Get involved if you're very concerned.
Absolutely.
The time is now to stop complaining and get out there and do something about it.
And Keith, you're absolutely right. And okay, Susan Hurd, I hear you loud and clear. Reach out to them, motivate them. But sometimes a little kick in the ass doesn't hurt either.
Metaphorically speaking.
Metaphorically speaking. And Keith, you're correct. a lot of districts don't have Republicans running for office because of that apathy, because they don't feel that they stand a chance. And the more we allow that to continue, they go unchallenged, the longer they're going to stay in office and the more power we give them. So we need to encourage people to run.
And I got to retype that for Ellen. There it is. I got to share it to everybody and the panelists. But yeah, so, think about what Independence Day is about, regaining our independence. And we got to get out there to do it. We can't just, sit around and complain. I use a manual wheelchair and, I'm getting out there. I went to the voting location to cast my vote. I didn't do the absentee ballot this last time. So, I encourage everybody, if you can, get out there, if law permits it this time around, which I sure in the heck hope it does.
Making gridlock a bit more bearable. Afternoons at 5 on AM 790 KABC.
All right, we're back on, Oren.
It's Friday night at the French Laundry. On the menu tonight, a better California with executive chef Orrin Heatley and maitre d' Mike Netter.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to Friday nights at the French Laundry here. And to quote the famous Beetlejuice, it's showtime. Because that's right, it's coming up September 14th, the election. Look, you need to pay attention to every second of this show, whether you're listening to it on the radio, and we'll get to that in 1 second, even during the breaks, or you're watching in our live feed. And I'm going to tell you about my buddy Oren's going a couple seconds ago. He's going, well, I need to cut in this conversation with a knife. If you watch the show on Facebook Live, you would see I get no time during the intermission, but Oren certainly has a stage. Love you, buddy. Now, I also
there's 19 people listening to the intermission.
No, there's actually over 1,000
All right,
on Facebook, but you can't see those statistics.
And I kid, but I do want to take a moment when you're done to come back around to what we're talking about, mail-in ballots, because I think that is an extremely important point. And I have some points that I'd like to make, and I'm sure there's other people that would like to weigh in.
And we will, and we're going to get to that. But I also want to make another point, because while you were talking during the 8 o'clock break, your name came up. Now, you didn't know that. And it wasn't me and Eric are going to say, right. What it really was this, is that during the news break, that 8 o'clock, again, if you were watching live streaming, you could have heard Oren giving his views. Okay, I call it pontificating, but it's the same thing. They're good views. But if you were listening 8 o'clock on the radio, pay attention, because Alex Padilla came on and said, blah, blah, blah. And then they quoted Orrin Heatley. And Orrin, Eric has been clutching his chair in the studio. His face has been steaming for about a half hour because he wants to comment on what Alex Padilla said about you.
Well, no, I mean, Padilla, first of all, Orrin, your quote in that news interview was terrific that we heard in the break. And Padilla said his typical, story about how this is a Republican recall. Padilla used to be the Secretary of State of the California until Newsom, moved him over and made him our U.S. Senator to replace Kamala Harris. Padilla is one of the great political hacks of our day. And as the Secretary of State, he oversaw elections in the state for many years. And I'll just throw a factoid out there for folks to just mull over. A couple of years ago, unbeknownst to just about everybody, LA County, the largest county in the country, more voters in the country than any other county, by far the largest county in this state, and the votes in LA County just affect statewide races for years. A couple of years ago, Padilla and this character that runs the LA County elections named Dean Logan entered into a contract for $282 million of our taxpayer money with a company called Smartmatic, the only county in the country that actually used Smartmatic to bring in all of their software, all of their hardware machines and everything to oversee the votes. Now, Dean Logan, who's in charge of elections in this county, a lot of people, most people don't know this, was effectively run out of the state of Washington on a rail in the early 2000s. He was running the elections for a county up there called Kings County, Washington. There was a gubernatorial election up there in the early 2000s in the state of Washington. It came down to Kings County. Logan was in charge of Kings County. The Republican candidate for governor lost that election by a couple hundred votes. They traced it to Kings County. To this day, people will say that dead people's votes and many other bad things were done with the voting in Kings County caused that Republican to lose that election up there. That's the character that oversees elections in LA County. That's the character that, along with this Padilla, spent $282 million, brought in this Smartmatic for LA County. That's what is overseeing the elections in LA County, the largest voting county in the state and frankly in the country. I'll let people just think about the potential repercussions of that.
Orrin, say what you want to say about mail-in ballots. I do want to mention that I have been imitating probably badly Beetlejuice tonight. And Carl, I see what you put on there. And Beetlejuice, under Democratic rules, is probably still eligible to vote.
I think about the Democrat mayor of Chicago when you mentioned Beetlejuice.
There you go. Orrin.
She looks like she starred in that
I know
movie.
you and I have talked about mail-in ballots in the system. I know you've got a comment. You're just dying, but we wanted to give you props.
Yeah, you know, people can change their minds, and I was very adamantly against mail-in ballots for a lot of good reasons, and a lot of the same reasons that our listeners might be against the mail-in ballot system as well. But knowing what I know now, I know that the voting population is generally a lazy population. And, you know, there were some comments during the break that I was a little harsh and on the Republicans, so to speak. And I understand that. I get that message. And I do want to encourage all Republicans. We need to get out. We need to get the vote. But this is not a partisan vote to remove this governor. We need everybody to cast their votes. And there are a lot of lazy and apathetic people in the voting population. They're uninformed and they need to get out and cast their votes. And I think the best way to reach these people is through the mail-in ballot system, because they're busy. People are busy in their own lives. That's what we found out during this recall petition drive. We're out there gathering signatures, and they're too busy to stop and hesitate for a moment on their way into a store to stop and make themselves aware of what's going on around them, or they just don't care. But if they get that ballot in the mail, the chance of them opening it up and actually filling it out and sending it in is greater than had they not received it at all. So I think that there's pros and there's cons, and you know there's the benefits far outweigh the negatives as far as mail-in ballots go, and I think that it is an effective way of reaching people in remote areas that wouldn't otherwise cast their vote.
Orrin, this is Eric. I just want to jump in and play devil's advocate a second, and
absolutely,
I respect everything you say, frankly. But my concern is how this universal mail-in balloting has opened the door for the potential for fraud in such a huge way. I have spoken to so many people that got more than one ballot where they live, to other names, people that used to live there, people who would see that live in apartment complexes that would see stacks of ballots just sitting there at the mailbox area. And, you know, when you combine that with bad people with bad intentions who will intentionally manipulate the vote and do all kinds of things with these ballots that are just all over the place. I just think it is a prescription for disaster, and I am so concerned about it.
Gentlemen, let me break in for a second, or 1 second here. I want to, because I want to bring up something that wasn't brought up. We got 2 minutes left here. We got two callers to go to. We'll get to one right before the break, and then Shar will get to you. But what's really fascinating is a situation that came up in Santa Barbara during COVID, where mail-in ballots were sent to a Santa Barbara dormitory. You can look it up. Okay, what? Mail-in ballots were sent to students and a Santa Barbara dormitory. Okay, sorry, I butchered the word, but you get my drift. A place where students allegedly sleep at night.
I get it now.
Right.
I didn't hear that word. Yeah.
What was interesting is many of them were sent back. What's even more fascinating, during COVID, none of the students were there. Again, it doesn't go to the fact that universal ballots are or aren't a good idea. What everybody's saying is we need a way to substantiate voters, okay? Now, to continue on where we're going, I'd like to go to Bianca next. Bianca, say hi to Oren.
Hey guys, how are you?
We're doing great. We wanted to get you in before we hit our final segment, Bianca. How are you?
I am doing great. Talking to you guys is my normal, and it's nice to get back to it.
It's nice to have you back there. Are you excited about the election in September?
Water wet? Come on, guys. I mean,
I'm trying to give you a
I just wanted I just wanted to say that, you guys had a real strong open with the show here. This is not a Republican recall. There are over 500,000 Californians who are non-Republican who signed this. And there are many ways in which Gavin has failed the left of California, and those merit discussion as well. Just to put a kind of a finer tip on things, I know, Oren and I have been on some calls and they talk about prison releases and things like that. But, the thing is that, Gavin and the legislature of California are not behaving like proper leftists. If they were, all of us would be pretty happy right now. We would all, there wouldn't be any kind of dissonance or any of it. Let me just give an example. If I sent you guys into war, modern war, and I gave you like a crappy rifle that like jammed up every 3 shots, and my version of a tank was basically an old Volkswagen van with some plates on the
Bianca, we're coming up against a break here. I do want to comment that we actually, thank you. We also had, Oren and I got a great call like last night from another gentleman who's a registered Democrat in San Francisco with 5 kids, who's had it with Gavin's reign. Look, we're going to roll the break, Bianca. God bless you and everything you've done, you stand for, and for bringing in the other view, because we're all standing against Gavin. Like, you call us next week, would you? Okay.
You got it.
All right, we're going to roll the break. We've got 1 segment left. Sharp from Monterey will be our final caller here. Ready? Everybody, it's Friday nights at the French Laundry, KABC 790.
Like other creatures, rules do not apply to us. We are the leaders. Voters can't be trusted to be indoor eaters. They are more contagious.
KABC dependable traffic right now.
All right. Fully shared across the state and the parts of the nation I can reach out to.
We're still getting indications of.
And let's see here.
Once you get to north of Valencia, though.
All right.
There you
So,
are.
Mike, I love how you claim that I get the total, the break time, so I don't get any air time. How the hell does that work out?
Well, wait, the point is you're supposed to bring things back from the break time over to the air time.
That's right.
Come on, Mike.
So anyway, that's Mike. I need to go get my big cleaver out so I can cut into the conversation.
Right?
Yeah. So is Bianca listening into the Facebook, or is she just on the radio?
I am not certain as of right now. Let me double check here.
I have a cat howling in the background.
Aha, I hear that. No, I do not see Bianca on, but that's all right. She might be watching on one of our Facebook groups, which I'm not able to see who's watching on the groups. But this has been shared to about 120 Facebook groups plus, and those that continue to share, that is great.
Absolutely. Share it, like it, share it, subscribe.
Well, as the saying goes, is we need to save California, because if California goes, so does the nation. And you're back on the air.
All right.
Welcome back, everybody, to the final city of the night at our virtual restaurant, where Orrin Heatley's cooked up a recall that is becoming fully baked, if you will, on September 14th. Orrin. Well, if you were watching on the live feed, you see Orrin putting on his headphones. If you're listening on radio, which thousands of you are out there, you wouldn't see that. Orrin, I'd like you to take our caller Shar from Monterey, because she's kind of close to your neck of the woods. Shar, how you doing tonight? Shar, are you there?
I don't hear anybody, Mike.
I don't hear anybody. Okay, we're going to move on here. Shar, thank you for attempting to call. Call back next week here. Look, we've got a lot to cover in about the last 11 minutes. Orrin, do you have any more you want to cover on your views on the election, if you will?
No, I just want to say that, you know, as far as the mail-in ballots go, I think that there's pros and cons to both aspects. And we definitely need to hold the registrar's feet to the fire and make sure that they clean up the voter rolls, and maintaining those accurately. So the nightmare scenarios that you both have talked about don't occur. The other thing that I'd like to say is that there's a simple solution to all of that, and that's a simple thumbprint on each ballot, whether it's a mail-in ballot or an in-person voting ballot. Putting a thumbprint on a pad that's easily scanned. The data is tracked and maintained already in our system. Everybody's thumbprint is on file. It's not something people can claim as a racially based requirement, but it would be an effective way of tracking one man, one vote. Not one man, one person, one vote.
You know, and it is fascinating here how, again, the state says, well, we want to see if you're vaccinated or not. So to do that, we'll probably need to identify who, if you are going into a 7-Eleven. But we don't need to identify you to vote. Mm-hmm. I just find that kind of weird. And I've also looked up the statistics, and I find it very bizarre. And by the way, and Eric, we may not be able to answer this on the air because, again, you're an attorney, a sous chef, and I'm not, as we get to the end here. But I believe the first time you vote in California, you're required to present an ID.
Well, I sure hope so. I'm not sure if that's true or not. All I know is I know my personal position is we must be required to show ID when we vote in this country. And the fact that that is still a bone of contention is frankly shocking to me, and it's shocking to most common sense Americans of all races, creeds, and colors. This is not, they're elected Democrat officials. They keep turning it into a racial issue. It has nothing to do with race. Everybody now either has ID or knows how to get it. And how else are you going to help secure a vote if you can't even ask somebody to see ID, show their ID when they show up to vote? You have to do it to get on an airplane. You have to do it to go pick up your baseball tickets at the stadium if you ordered them in advance. You have to do it for, so many things in life.
Yeah, I know it's ridiculous here. Look, we're running down to the end of the show, but I want to stress again what an important week it's been. I want everybody out there to understand we use this show as the voice of the people. We pay for this radio show. We ask if you can, in the last 8-10 weeks that are left in this recall, to help us fight Gavin. Everybody out there understand again what we've done is historic. The election's been declared. The only thing that will really stop this from being due process, and we could talk about election fraud, we could talk about things we don't control, everybody out there. but each of you does control if you vote. And you know how you vote. So everybody out there, to Oren's point earlier, you've got to get out there and vote. Do not have a lazy posterior and don't vote. LA, vote, vote, vote. And by the way, you're not voting Democrat or Republican. You're voting for a better California. It's really that simple. And Gavin, really, dude, you think Californians are that dumb? Obviously you do. That without the D beside your name, they're not going to vote for you because it's not about you or California. It's about simply your party. And also, Oren, I've got to tell you the dumbest question I was asked in an interview this week. And you were probably asked it too. You ready?
Go for it.
Thank you. Well, isn't it a waste of money to spend $215 million in an election? Hey, everybody out there, it doesn't matter. That question, reporters, by the way, is kind of dumb, and due deference to everybody that asks it because it's already on the ballot. Okay? Maybe 6 or 8 months ago, if you wanted to bring it up when people were maybe not whether they should sign the petition, go for it. Today, it's not a question. Today, the question isn't whether or not it's going to be on the ballot, whether or not you should sign the recall. Today, the question is, are you going to vote? And we want you to vote yes to remove Gavin because it's time the people had a say. Oren,
Fact is, don't waste a dime of that money. Get out the vote, and we are going to be spending millions in California in order to stop the free flow of our tax dollars leaving California in the tune of billions and billions. This governor has already squandered our tax dollars, and he continues to do so. There is not a surplus in California. We are running on a credit card bill that is astronomical. We are living on credit. We have over $1 to $2 trillion in unfunded bond liabilities. We have $93 to $98 billion in unfunded pension liabilities between CalSTRS and CalPERS alone, folks. We do not have a budget surplus as much as this governor would like to say that we do. We are living on credit in California, and this governor is spending our last paycheck.
Oren, well said. God bless you, man. I'm a good friend for everything we've done. We've got on the ballot. Eric, you've got about 1 minute before my final rant.
Well, first of all, again, it's an honor to be here with you two, the miracle workers in this entire country who have given hope to millions and millions of people all across the state of California that we can get this empty suit out of there. Happy 4th of July to everybody. The birthday of the greatest country in human history. It is just the focus now has to be on getting everything together and marshaling the resources so that we get a yes vote to remove Gavin Newsom from office.
Everybody out there, pay attention. This literally is California's last stand. We, the volunteers, we, the people, have done our job. It's on the ballot. It's up to you, the people out there, to go to our website. Tell us the districts you want to walk. We'll give you the information. The people that you want to call, we'll give you phone numbers. You want trifolds, you want materials, we're going to send them to you. We have to make people aware this is California's last stand. We have to make people aware it's our chance. Oren started this. We all jumped in. God bless us, California. Understand something. This is your chance. There could not be a better gift on this 4th of July, our country's birthday, than the fact that the legislature has awarded us the chance, the date it's set to remove this governor who you've heard has violated our constitutional rights, our U.S. constitutional rights, and will continue to do so unless we, the people, do something about it. We need you
September
out there
14th,
going
folks.
to recall Gavin2020.com. Tell everybody September 14th, it's coming up. The date, it's on the ballot, Gavin. It's happening. There is virtually nothing you could do about it. You know what? We're standing up against you. You may not get that D beside your name, but I tell you what, you are going to get an election, my friend. And in that election, we, the people of California, are going to make sure with every ounce of power in our body that we get a new governor, one that represents the people of California. Happy 4th of July, everybody. God bless the United States. Friday nights at the French Laundry. Tune in next week, every week. Recall Gavin2020.com. Happy Rockets Day.
You want even pardon in loss. Mr. Mayor, how would you prefer your foie gras? Donated? Sir, we saw you at a party.
It wasn't me.
Eating at the French Laundry.
It wasn't me.
You even had the clam chowder.
It wasn't me.
Sir, we got you on camera.
It wasn't me.
You said we can't be super spreading.
Mighty Mike, come online.
This show is sponsored by the official Recall Committee, California Patriot Coalition. Recall Governor Newsom 2020. Number 14.
All right, you guys, thank you for sticking with us throughout the show, and God bless everybody. Enjoy your 4th of July. And Tim, Susan, Robin, everybody, Ellen, Chris, Shar down in Monterey. Thank you, everybody, for joining the team and staying with us as long as you have and doing everything you can to make this a success.
And this is going to be broadcasted onto YouTube and on Instagram under Recall Gavin 2020 TV. So look for that.
Good night, everybody.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. And happy Independence Day.